The General Assembly will resume its consideration of Agenda Item 63, entitled Use of the Veto, to hold a debate pursuant to Resolution 76/262 of 26 April 2022 on the situation as to which the veto was cast by a permanent member of the 9,552nd meeting of the Security Council on 20th February 2024 under the agenda item entitled The Situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian Question. In connection with this debate, the Assembly has before it a special report of the Security Council circulated in document A/78/786. The President will now deliver a statement from the rostrum. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, from the inception of the United Nations in 1945, the General Assembly and the Security Council both share a single overarching duty: to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. The purpose of our meeting today underscores the vital importance of that joint responsibility and of the urgency for the two bodies to strengthen their collective efforts within their respective mandates under the United Nations Charter to preserve and promote global peace and security. In this context, I strongly urge member states to engage in today's debate with a proactive, solution-oriented posture, mindful of all member states' responsibility to exert every effort to avert further violence and to save lives. Excellencies, while I welcome the introduction and utility of the Veto Initiative, most especially in relation to the accountability it seeks to foster, it is nevertheless deeply regrettable that, compliant with the rules of procedure, this General Assembly must use it at all in connection with the current deepening humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. As you know, the situation in Gaza is catastrophic, unconscionable, shameful. I am shocked and horrified at the reported killing and injury of hundreds of people during disbursement of food supplies west of Gaza City last week. This comes as the death toll in Israel and the Gaza Strip since October 7th has reached the 30,000 mark. Thousands of children have been killed. They are scrounging for food and watching their childhoods evaporate into the horrors of war. Moreover, recent published reports have indicated that a number of babies have died of malnutrition and starvation in Gaza. Countless communities have been decimated. Countless families have vanished intergenerationally. Countless mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, nieces and nephews, all gone. As the French would say, disparu, disappeared. Their dreams extinguished, their potential lost forever, and their futures obliterated. 85% of Gaza's population, or 1.9 million people, are internally displaced. Nearly 1.5 million of them now reside in Rafah. That is, more than 6 times the population prior to 7th October. I repeat, 6 times. I'm deeply concerned about intensified Israeli airstrikes in Rafah, including in residential areas. In the words of UN Emergency Relief Coordinator Martin Griffiths, any ground operation in such a densely populated area would leave an already fragile humanitarian operation at death's door. I therefore urgently call for maximum restraint to prevail in order to save innocent civilian lives. Israeli restrictions on the humanitarian access have drastically reduced the flow of life-saving aid to a mere trickle. UNRWA reports a significant 50% reduction in the number of trucks entering Gaza daily from January to February. It is therefore essential that we rapidly and substantially increase the scale of humanitarian operations and ensure unrestricted access to all civilians in need. Excellencies, the will of the international community, as already expressed in the vote by the overwhelming majority of this Assembly's membership, is unambiguous, clear, and resolute. And I feel myself duty-bound to reiterate that will here today, as it cannot continue to go unheeded. First and foremost, an immediate humanitarian ceasefire must be implemented. The bombardment must stop now. Second, all parties must comply with their obligations under international human rights law and international humanitarian law, especially as it relates to the protection of civilians and civilian facilities. Third, all hostages must be immediately and unconditionally released. And finally, full and unimpeded access to humanitarian assistance by those in need must be ensured. Recalling that under the United Nations Charter, the Security Council acts on behalf of the entire UN membership, I call upon all members of the Council, especially the permanent members, to redouble their efforts to reach a consensus that would bring about a safe, just, and immediate response compliant with these demands. All parties must do their utmost to meet these demands and both preserve and save lives. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, let me close with a reminder that this week's week marks a grim milestone, 150 days of violence. 150 days of violence breeding violence, despair, destruction, and devastation, and the dehumanization of people. Each day, this painful reality continues to entrench the feeling of frustration and disillusionment, especially by those caught in the crossfire, who look to the United Nations as a guarantor of the good. Each day that passes risks a deepening failure to meet our moral obligations and duties, and each life lost adds to the stain on our collective conscience. With resolve and urgency, let us therefore work much harder to immediately end this conflict and to lay down the foundations of a future where Israel and the state of Palestine can coexist peacefully, two states living side by side in harmony, united by a single shared vision for a brighter, more hopeful destiny. As an outcome of the deliberations today, and as per previous practice, my office will share a summary with the President of the Security Council and the entire UN membership. I thank you.